I'm Jason UFC, and today we have a story about UFC implements a new UFC Apex seating policy for fighters, families, friends on fight nights. Members of the UFC roster were notified yesterday, of the implementation of a new ticketing policy for family and friends of fighters during events at the UFC Apex here in Las Vegas. In a memo obtained by MMA Junkie on Tuesday yesterday, UFC Chief Business Officer Hunter Campbell notified fighters and their teams that beginning with UFC Fight Night 240 on Saturday, fighters will receive 4 tickets for family and friends to watch their individual fights only. What? Their individual fights only. Okay, let's see. Beginning with UFC Fight Night this Saturday, April 6, 2024, athletes who compete on Fight Night cards at UFC Apex will receive 4 seats for friends and family total to watch their fight only. What? Campbell wrote. Okay, hold on. Following the bout, your guests will be escorted out of the Apex. This practice will be in effect for all events at UFC Apex going forward. Hold on, let me read that one more time because that sounds almost... What kind of new policy is this? What? Beginning with UFC Fight Night this Saturday, April 6th, athletes who compete on Fight Night cards at UFC Apex will receive 4 seats for friends and family. I mean, how many people can you get with friends and family? That doesn't seem like a lot. To watch your fight only, following the bout, your guests will be escorted out of the Apex. This practice will be in effect for all events at UFC Apex going forward. UFC event operation VIP hosts will coordinate all details with you during fighter check-in of your respective fight weeks at the host hotel. All details will be provided, including specific arrival times. Oh my goodness, wow. Including specific arrival times for your guest. Wow. UFC fighters typically receive 4 complimentary tickets for events on the road. However, tickets are not typically guaranteed to the athletes at UFC Apex prior to this policy implementation. According to numerous people with knowledge of the procedures, family and friends more times than not purchased premium price tickets in order to this story is I don't know what's going on here. I do have to preface this by saying I am a MMA casual, so I can't follow every single tweet that goes on with the UFC, but this policy sounds insane, right? Like, first of all, the first thing we have to say is, why is the UFC still hosting events in the Apex? They have to be losing money on events at the Apex. From what I remember, and like I said, I'm a casual, so I can't remember it specifically, but I thought they started having UFC events at the Apex because of 2020. I'm not going to say the word because my channel will be demonetized, but because of the events of 2020 where fans obviously were not really allowed and people had to kind of keep distance from each other. So I thought that's why they had UFC events at the Apex. Now we're 4 years later. And why does the UFC still have events at the Apex? They have events, pay-per-views at T-Mobile. You see Bellator, they have some events happening at the Virgin Hotel in everything is open. That's the only thing I can say. Everything is open in Las Vegas. Is there a very, and I mean not just a random reason, a very, very specific reason as to why the UFC are not allowing fans in these fight night events? And even if you can have, let's say, have fans in Las Vegas, why can't you go to a different state to have some of these fight nights, right? I see a lot of my hardcore MMA friends on Twitter complaining, and I gotta be honest, I don't think I've watched one UFC Apex event this year, last year. I just don't know. I think the last time, I'm going to be very honest, the last time I watched a UFC Apex event, it had to have been Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker. And I mean, that was like 3 years ago, right? Like that was a great fight. That's like one of the only fights that I could remember. I'm MMA casual, so I can't remember much. But when it comes to like UFC Apex events, they said there's an event this weekend, April 6th. I can't name, I'm a casual, but I can't name one person I'm pretty sure I know who's, if I saw the card, but I didn't even know there was an event that's happening this weekend. I'm not going to watch it. I don't, I have no idea who's headlining it, meaning that, the promotion for these UFC Apex events are not really being promoted, right? Like they don't promote them. There's no fans in the venue. I live here in Las Vegas. Why can't I just go to a fight night? We have seen a lot of people complain about like very important, celebrities. The last celebrity I heard of I think it was Zuckerberg. I know he walked out with a fighter recently, but I think Zuckerberg was like at the Apex events, and I'm pretty sure they did not remove him and his family and his friends for any of the fights. So why now, when you have an Apex event, why can't they at least stay for the entire fight, right? At least have your friends and family stay for the entire fight. Why would you say, hey, your fight is on first or second or third or, whatever, even if you're the main event? Even if you are the main event, your family won't be allowed in before your fight. What is that? And family and friends, 4 tickets? Like, I mean, does underage children count as tickets? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, 4 tickets is not a lot. I mean, you have your team. At least they're not ticketing your team, right? They don't count your team. But family and friends, 4 tickets. And they very specifically say you will be instructed on times to like you all details will be provided, including specific, right? This is a very important word. All details will be provided, including specific arrival times for your guests. That's very, very cut and clear. If you do not arrive at the right time, it sounds like you won't be allowed in the venue. And as soon as your fight is over, you will be escorted out of the Apex. Like, so, I mean, like, are they cutting the amount of people in the Apex? Are we saying now, as quiet as it is it going to only be like 4 or 7 people, your corner, 4 people in the crowd, 8 people in the crowd, your opponent, yourself has 8 tickets total? Are there 8 people in the crowd watching these fights total? Or is it 8 people in the crowd total and all of our famous friends could stay for the entire event? This is just embarrassing. I can't understand this new policy. Someone. I know UFC 300 is coming up. No one's going to really be asking. But someone has to get to Dana White and ask just one question. Maybe 2 questions. Why does the UFC still do UFC Apex events? When will the UFC stop doing UFC Apex events? Those would be my only 2 questions. Why and when, right? Why are we still doing these events? These events cannot be making any money. There's no attendance. The UFC, anytime they go to a place, the first thing they come out and say it's an all-time record. We broke the gate. We broke, even over, other sports, we have the highest gate, the highest attendance. They always say that, but for UFC Apex events, they just seem to they just don't seem to be putting any effort into making it even worse now, right? Like if I'm a fighter and I see my friends and family have to leave for my fight, and a famous Mark Zuckerberg is sitting there for the entire fight, like for what? That doesn't make sense. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't own any part of the UFC. He's just a famous person, right? So we'll see what this new policy is. Probably most people won't see because no one watches the UFC Apex event. So my question is, why does the UFC still have these events in 2024? And when will the UFC stop having Apex events, start opening up these fight night cards to the average fans? When will they take these events not only out of the Apex, maybe out, move some of these fight nights to different cities, Miami, Los Angeles, Portland. There's so many places you could take these fight night events, Cleveland, and just bring fans back. When will they bring fans back? This is a question we asked in 2020. We are now in 2024, and the UFC is still having events like it's 2020. But I'm an MMA casual, so what the hell do I know? But let me know your opinion of this story. I'm Jason, UFC. Today we had a story about UFC implements a new UFC Apex seating policy for fighters, friends, and family and friends on fight night. 4 tickets. You can only watch your fighter fight, and you will be escorted out of the Apex after your fighter fight is over. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button, and please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.